So tonight we want to recap our Amy episode because so much happened. And I feel like we got so much information. We got a lot of information from our viewers. A lot of information came in after the show.
Mhm.
And I feel like there was a lot of feelings going around too. And so I just wanted to start by asking, each of you, why do you think this case is really hitting like deeply for so many people? Why this case? What makes this case different?
What I really think that makes this case so much different than a lot of other things is that it's fairly current compared to some of the other things. And because sex trafficking is getting so much more attention these days than it has in the past, and I think many women have, and men too, because I'm sure men are trafficked as well. Because of that, I mean, I have seen people be concerned that they've been followed around Target or Walmart, or any particular store, right? And so all of a sudden they're like concerned. Parents are being concerned for their children, so I think this just brings things a little closer to home. Mm-hmm. And not so far-fetched. And so many people travel. And I think maybe this is something you said, Harlow, maybe in the first show. There's that false sense of security, like you're on your own little city and that nothing bad can happen. Because I know myself, I have gone on a cruise and I didn't know this Amy Bradley story at all at that point and had no idea. And had I known, I probably would have been a little more concerned for like my granddaughters that were with us, mm-hmm. that sort of thing. But I do think it just brings in a little more reality to, potential harm.
I actually remember when this case happened. Mm-hmm. And in the moment, people were framing it like she jumped off the ship or she fell off accidentally. And like it was this big party atmosphere, and it made it kind of paint her in a bad light. But I remember it happening. And now it's not a new case to all the true crime people. This is a very well-known case in the true crime community. I was planning on doing it anyway. It was on my list. And now that it's on Netflix, which reaches millions of people, mm-hmm. it's in the public eye. And there's this family that's been missing their daughter, looking for her desperately for almost 30 years with no resolution at all. So it makes it very emotional for people. And because there's no physical evidence, all these things are possible. A million different things could have happened. And so it makes it a very huge mystery that people are trying to piece these individual things together to figure out what happened.
An age where women are no longer being blamed. And I think that that's fairly recent. More people than not agree that it's not the woman's fault that this happened. And I think cases prior to Amy's case, there was still, like you said, there's this party atmosphere set up, which immediately people blame the woman and mm-hmm. blame her. And I feel like, fortunately, with social media now and realized that women aren't to blame for these situations. And I feel like the younger generation is really pushing that narrative, thank God, and mm-hmm. opening up the door for cases like this to be seen and heard from a different perspective. Not from the perspective of, oh, she was a partier, but from a perspective of, it doesn't matter if she was a partier. Who cares if she partied? Mm-hmm. We all partied. So right. It doesn't mean that something bad should be happening to a female because she parties. But for my age, I'm 52. I grew up with women being blamed. It was how we dressed. It was how we acted. I heard that. I was told that by my father, that it was my fault. And if it's not the woman's fault, then whose fault is it? I think that's where we land with this case. Speaking of women needing a voice, Opal wants out.
Darn it, Opal.
We were supposed to not have to edit this, Opal.
Well, you touched on all the comments that we got from people. And there was an amazing amount of information that did come in and stuff that I wasn't familiar with, questions that I had myself and didn't know much about. I'm sure you saw that comment and came in last night. It was really interesting. But some of the stuff I saw was
no, which comment that came in last night?
Let me mention a couple.
Okay.
One person in the comment section mentioned that she herself had taken cruises back in the 90s, and passengers disembarking were subject to security screening for immigration and customs. Another said cameras did record passengers disembarking at ports in 1998, but in my research, I showed that if they were in the general area. It wasn't their focus to look at people individually and identify them. It was just like a basic general thing. So the other thing was that it makes sense to me, but I didn't think about, is passengers typically use a different gangplank than crew members. When they go to a port, the crew has to go off and load up new supplies to go to the next port. So they have a separate gangplank. She could have easily walked down a separate gangplank with crew members or in a container, and nobody would have been the wiser.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's very true.
And then the one last night, there was also one more that somebody else said, those partitions that connect the balconies can be unlocked by crew members. So someone easily could have unlocked the partitions, taken her down to a couple cabins over where maybe a crew member was, or someone that paid for the cruise that wanted to kidnap. They even have empty cabins for people that cancellations. They keep empty open cabins in case there's plumbing and they need to move people around. So there's all kinds of ways, even if that family remembered that the sliding door was open and would have made a vacuum had she left, maybe she went out that way.
Wow. Okay. Well, then that would balance out my theory of someone coming in.
That motion. Yeah.
I remember it on our first episode, and it was either you mentioned it or I saw a picture of the sliding of the glass door of the slide. I don't know if it was glass, but the sliding door on the patio.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, someone came in there and took her. Mm-hmm. She came, and then the second episode, I was saying she went I felt the energy was circular, right?
If that was, a vacuum effect was going on, maybe she didn't even go out that way. Maybe the partition was unlocked and someone took her out the other way, or they were going to show her something and she walked off.
Right.
And maybe they took her down to the kitchen area.
Kind of opens up a few more questions, but that explains where that energy of her being felt like she was being taken came from.
You guys had mentioned her being taken down to the kitchen area, someone below deck, and then with the other gangplanks, it easily could have happened that way. Mm-hmm. And then the last comment that we got, I thought maybe you had seen this one. In relation to the human trafficking ring, said the hubs and named some cities, and one of them we said was both you guys got was Calcutta, which seemed weird at the time since we only think of it as Greece. Not Greece, India. Sorry.
India.
So one comment we got last night was that there is some place called Calcutta Creek in the Bahamas. It's a small inlet in the Great Abaco Islands beyond Nassau, and it's off the beaten path, close to ports and relatively where the area she was at during those cruises. If you know where the east coast of Florida is with Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, then you have Cuba and Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and below that is Curacao and Aruba. So it's all in the same general proximity. Wow. So Calcutta actually makes sense.
Okay.
We really want to thank the viewers and all their comments because it really helps piece everything together.
It really does. And when you were speaking about that, I started getting chills, and the more confirmation you came up, I was like, oh, yee.
This is why I think it's so great when we work as a community. It takes more than one person to do anything, right?
Absolutely.
This is really cool.
That's why this is such an interesting mix of the psychic information and then the other information.
Yeah.
And it's hard in the moment for us to stop and Google and figure everything out. So people are really contributing a lot.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
It's so helpful, and then it helps us to realize that we did hear things correctly because, sometimes after the fact, you're like, I know I heard that, but right.
Am I crazy?
Am I crazy? Did I hear that right? But then how did we both hear it?
For sure. Yep. For sure. I mean, and that's the other thing is you using your cards just honed in both of us. So like it really enhanced both of our intuition, I think, to such a great degree. And I know Harlow had brought this up. This is technically her question for tonight, not mine, but I love it so much. She'd mentioned, she's like, we want to hear more about what you were experiencing when you got very emotional talking about her.
Oh, I'm going to get emotional again. I'm feeling her overwhelm. I'm feeling her sadness. I'm also feeling her joy because she has come to find joy in her life. Kind of to your point oh, wow, I'm sorry. It's like really just, kind of to your point the other day or last night, she's a warrior and she honors that part about her. That's why she's still struggling with whether or not she wants to come forward, because she really has pieced her life back together. And so she's not sure she wants to undo that because it took her so long to put it back together. I'm not saying yes, she's going to see her family again. I'm not saying absolutely no. But I am going to stand by it's her choice and her decision. And it's up to her soul and her soul contract on whether or not she wants to open that up again. Because I just heard Pandora's box and she's not sure she wants to do that again because it was such a horrific time she lived through that she's showing me she's put it to bed, she's put it to rest. And she just doesn't know if she wants to bring that all up again, because I just get a sense, I know Harlow keeps bringing this up, but and I know there's children around somewhere, whether they're her children or someone else's children or whatever, but there are children around her. And she's finding joy in that.
It was one person in particular, and I feel like maybe on one of the other platforms, there was someone else saying, well, you refer to her as a warrior, but this isn't fair to her family. There's a family out there that wants to find her. And why aren't you telling us where she's at? There's a family out there that deserves to know this. And so a couple reasons. One is it's not that I receive information and withhold it. It's that I am told that this isn't for you to have or share. A. B, I think that and we don't know her family, so I'm not passing any judgment on the family or what her life was like. But as you grow into an adult, you start to see your family differently. And for not everybody sees their family as family. Not everybody sees their family as safe. And for people that have grown up like that, if you were to go through, I'm just speculating and just explaining why someone like her may not come forward. Because it's her choice, not her family's choice. She's an adult now and she gets to make whatever choices she wants. And it's not based off of what her family wants. Yes, as a mother, I'm not a mother, but I can imagine as a mother, no matter what kind of relationship you had with your daughter, you want that connection again. But you have to understand that this daughter has lived a life that is unimaginable. And you don't know what that does to the psyche, to the emotional body, to the spiritual body, and what family now means to her or looks like to her or brings up for her. And there may not be a trust there, not because her family is not trustworthy, but because the last experience she had with them was a moment of a massive breach of trust in her own life. And because of that, it can be very triggering and almost impossible to go back to that. And so I think just, again, honoring the choice, honoring, like Denise said, and yes, you can be a warrior and be in hiding, because if you're living through the memory of that life experience and you are still trying to thrive, then you have to be a warrior to survive that.
She had, because I was curious.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about Greece and getting Santorini again. It doesn't want to be seen. she was holding up a card, but you couldn't tell what it was. So I asked her to.
It's Soul Cage. It's rescue, escape from captivity, and restriction.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, you don't get more on the nose than that. That's something else.
And I can't remember specifically what things were said, but it came up several different times.
I think that it's important too, as psychic mediums, we have a responsibility and a level of integrity that only we can manage on our own, where it's not for us to dig in. So for me, whether it's reading a client or anything like this, or doing something on TikTok, if there's a block, there's a block. Then you just are like, okay, like it's not for me to do. And I'm not going to dig into why because then you're just being a nosy little bitch. Like,
right.
If you're told to get out, then get out.
Right. Yeah.
And that said, we've got Santorini and Calcutta Creek, which I haven't seen anywhere else.
Wow. Really?
I've never seen that anywhere else. And I've seen a lot of shows on YouTube and TikTok about this. Let's watch several psychics. A lot of psychics have said similar things. She was taken into the kitchen area and she's been trafficked. Most people believe that she is still alive, but I have not seen that kind of detail anywhere else.
Well,
yay for us.
If it can help some other girls at some other point, then we've done our job, right?
Yes. And, and then also too, thankfully, most of us don't know what that experience could be like. So we have no idea the amount of post-traumatic stress that she has from that event. And, we don't know the whole process of what she's gone through to get to where she is today. And, I can only presume that if you've been through something so horrific that you really would be very, very cautious about wanting to unlock that box.
Well, I think we did really good work, and I don't know that there's any need to revisit this case again unless something else obviously comes to light. We gained a lot of new viewers that were just really supportive and contributed so much to the case, where I genuinely feel like if there was someone, who held any sort of position, could, like Carlos said, put pieces together based off of what we said, based off of what people said in the comments. And, maybe one day we'll live in a world where that, just because we didn't go to school to be a detective or, a police officer, doesn't mean we can't be of service in some other capacity. So maybe one day that door will open and, us and our community can really make a difference in a lot of these cases. Our next case is Madeline McCann, and we will let you know when that will air live. We hope you join us then.